The opinions expressed by the host and guests in this show are not necessarily the views of Children's Health Defense.
Good morning, CHD. It is Sunday, November the 30th, 2025. Welcome to This Week with Mary Holland, President of Children's Health Defense, and myself, Polly Tommy. We hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving.
It's a lovely holiday, right? It's a holiday about gratitude and just being with loved ones and great food. And it's a favorite holiday, I think, for many people in the U.S.
Yeah, well, it's the last day of November today. So tomorrow is the 1st of December. This year has really flown by. All right, well, let's get on with our news then. So we're going to talk about Bill Cassidy this morning. I know a lot of you have been writing to us and writing in the chat about whether we're going to comment on him, and we are. So the first article, Washington Post, CDC in turmoil after agency backpedals on rejecting vaccines, and the autism link. Senator Bill Cassidy, who voted to confirm Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. after he pledged not to remove language stating vaccines do not cause autism from the CDC website. He condemned the change. I'm just going to go on now to his tweet on X. I'm going to read a bit of this out for you all. He says, "I am a doctor who has seen people die from vaccine-preventable diseases. What parents need to hear right now is vaccines for measles, polio, Hep B, and other childhood diseases are safe and effective and will not cause autism. Any statement to the contrary is wrong, irresponsible, and actively makes America sicker. We need to understand the real causes of autism. Studies show there is a genetic predisposition when a mum who's pregnant is exposed to environmental toxins, which can increase a child's risk of autism. It's deeply troubling that, according to HHS officials, they appear to have cancelled hundreds of millions in research on autism genetics, redirecting attention to factors we definitely know do not cause autism, denies families the answers they deserve. We had 2 children die and many more hospitalized nationally from measles this year. Louisiana is experiencing its worst whooping cough outbreak in 35 years. Families are getting sick and people are dying from vaccine-preventable deaths, and that tragedy needs to stop." Well, Mary, there is so much wrong with that, all of that statement. I just want to point out Dr. Suzanne Humphries replied to him on that thread saying, "I am a doctor who has seen people die from vaccination. I'm also a doctor who has been looking for the randomized controlled clinical trials for the childhood vaccination schedule. But to someone like you who's pocketing big money, that wouldn't mean anything, would it?" That was Dr. Suzanne Humphries' reply. Toby Rogers says, 7,024 official reports of COVID vaccine injuries in the state of Louisiana, including 81 fatalities and 172 people permanently disabled by these junk science shots. It's a shameful dereliction of duty that, quite frankly, is disqualifying. So the comments going down are outstanding. He has little or no support. But for the record, yet again, please, those 2 girls, Senator Cassidy, did not die from measles. I don't know how many times we have to tell you this. And you keep repeatedly, you and others repeatedly saying that they did. It's exhausting, Mary, this whole thing. I don't know what we do to stop this.
Well, Polly, we can't imagine that this was unexpected, right? So, for Kennedy as secretary to come in and now unravel what was 40 years in the making of vaccines are safe and effective, vaccines save lives, there's only an upside. And there's trillions of dollars behind it. I don't think we had the naive view, Polly, that this was going to be easy, or that people like Dr. Bill Cassidy, a medical doctor in the Senate who takes money from Pfizer, who's been a big pharma promoter. I don't think we imagined that they would, say, "Oh, Secretary Kennedy, you're right. I made a mistake for the last 40 years. And it's going to continue to be difficult, Polly. I don't think that the people that have been promoting vaccines, including the industry and the medical profession and the trade associations, they're not going to go quietly. It's not in their interest. They're hoping, Polly, that Bobby Kennedy will just go away. They're hoping that either Trump will get rid of him, or, he serves out this term and then there's a new administration that's very pro-pharma. But they really expect, clearly, in my view, based on their messaging, that they can wait this out. They've had 40-year run. There's a little bit of turbulence. They're just going to wait it out. They're not going to change their direction unless they're forced to.
No, but just some of the things, he says, will not cause autism, any of the childhood vaccines. And then he says, I can't deal with this pregnant women exposed to environmental toxins, which can. I don't know about you, but my son was absolutely perfect when he was born.
I know, Polly. This is, he's holding on to this old canard. It's only genetic. It's only prenatal. It has nothing to do with vaccines. It's lies, Polly. He is clinging to a whole host of lies, and they're lies that have been fed to the American public for decades. And they're not flying in the same way, but this is a duel of narratives that's not going to be over today. It's going to take a while.
But meanwhile, babies are dying, like the story we did this week with baby Josie, because the parents don't know. They trust their pediatricians. We know, because of what happened to our children, that Bill Cassidy is lying, but there's a great many that will believe him, which is why it's important, the work the Children's Health Defense are doing.
Oh, Polly, the work is more important than ever. They keep ramping. The schedule isn't going away. The mRNA shots aren't going away. The listen to your doctor isn't going away. So we need to get information through to people through other means. The good news is that especially through COVID, people understood that what they were being told wasn't the truth. And so there's a greater receptivity and openness to our messages than there's ever been before.
And everything's ramping up because we have ASIP coming up, everyone. We will be streaming that live on CHD TV.
Yeah. This one's going to be a big one. Yeah. So they're considering sort of the schedule, and they're considering the hepatitis B birth dose. And those are really big issues.
Staying with Bill Cassidy, there's a YouTube video. We'll put the link in the show notes. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. promised you, and he lied to you. This is the interviewer talking to Senator Bill Cassidy. Bill says vaccines are safe. It's well proven vaccines are not associated with autism. He then calls us, the parents who did vaccinate, were a fringe, a small fringe of people. We're not. There's a lot of us. Then he bangs on about 2 children dead in West Texas again. So it's just lie after lie. So there's that. If you can.
Well, it was an interesting interview, though, Polly, because the interviewer is Jake Tapper at CNN. And as you may remember from the real Anthony Fauci, Bobby Kennedy reached out to Jake Tapper to do the story on deadly immunity. And Jake Tapper was going to do that with Bobby and then stop. So Jake Tapper hates Bobby Kennedy at this point. And Jake Tapper keeps trying to bait Senator Cassidy, say that, Kennedy lied, say that he, did stuff that was terrible. And actually, what was interesting to me is Cassidy wouldn't do that. So he's trying to still say, we're one team and I support President Trump, and President Trump believes that vaccines are safe. It was quite interesting the extent to which Cassidy would not actually criticize Kennedy by name. So that was interesting.
I guess that's an interesting take on it, yes. Michael Nevadakis in The Defender. Pfizer claims victory in mRNA flu vaccine trial. Critics push back, citing flaws and gaps in safety signals. Pfizer reported that its mRNA flu shot outperformed conventional flu vaccines in a phase 3 trial, but independent experts said the company's study overstates the benefits and downplays safety signals. They cited flaws in the Pfizer-funded research, including missing data that calls into question the trial's conclusions. So yeah, we've been seeing quite a lot of press about that in the mainstream press, that this new mRNA flu shot is the big deal.
The very basic thing that our science team member Carl Yablonowski points out is there's no unvaccinated control. If there's no control, it's not science. All that they showed is allegedly relative efficacy. And, we know from a recent Cleveland Clinic study, unvaccinated people were 27% less likely to get flu than people who got a flu shot. What was so sad is this is published in the New England Journal of Medicine, supposedly a credible journal. They didn't even have people in the clinical trials, Polly, who are 65 and older, the people most likely to get the flu. The other thing that was really troubling about this is there were 16 deaths out of the 18,000 people in this study. And they just, with a sweep of a hand, said, all the deaths were unrelated to the vaccines. Although most of the side effects were in the mRNA group. So this is, candidly, this is just junk science, Polly. It's just junk science.
This is from Source NM. The Indian Health Service is flagging vaccine-related speech. Doctors say they're being censored. A year ago, the Federal Indian Health Service posted dozens of flyers on Facebook promoting flu and COVID-19 vaccine clinics, featuring photos of smiling families with vaccines that are safe and effective. But this year, as HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. put a stamp on federal immunization policy, public messaging on vaccines has taken a stark turn. So basically, this is pro-vaccine doctors complaining they're being censored.
Right.
Welcome to our world.
Yeah, exactly. This is actually first done by a nonprofit journalism outfit that's generally good on showing corruption called ProPublica. And this has been picked up pretty widely. But exactly, now doctors on the other side, when they talk about vaccination or immunization, especially in the government-run Native American Health Service, they don't know what to say. They're worried. They are being reviewed for what they're saying about immunization and vaccination. So they're feeling very crimped, which, welcome to our world.
Doctors and Children's Health Defense asked Supreme Court to review medical free speech case. Basketball legend John Stockton and 3 retired Washington physicians and Children's Health Defense asked the U.S. Supreme Court to review a federal appeals court dismissal of their lawsuit challenging the state medical board's policy of sanctioning physicians for publicly questioning the mainstream COVID-19 narrative.
Yeah, so we have 2 very important speech cases, Polly, about medical speech, the Corey v. Bonta and Stockton versus Ferguson. Now it's a new name, but both of these cases, one comes from Washington, one comes from California. They both went to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and now they're both before the Supreme Court. And it's really critical, we know from COVID, for doctors to be able to speak freely to their patients, for doctors to be able to speak in the newspaper about whatever they want, and for doctors to be able to talk with their patients openly and not have to follow some kind of script. So there are basically these 3 professional speech, medical speech issues before the Supreme Court with these 3 cases, Corey, Stockton, and then one that the Supreme Court heard recently called Childs versus Salazar. And Rick Jaffe, the attorney who's representing the Corey and Stockton plaintiffs, believes that in spring 2026, we're likely to get a Supreme Court decision that's going to deal with these 3 medical speech issues, including our cases, Corey and Stockton. And I'm really hoping that they do this the right way and uphold the First Amendment protections that are so critical in the medical health area. They're just absolutely essential, as we saw during COVID, when doctors like Pierre Corey were penalized, or doctors like Meryl Nass for telling patients the truth about ivermectin and treating their patients with something that wasn't accepted by the mainstream. They need that discretion. They need that freedom of speech. And we, as patients and as readers, need them to have that freedom.
Dr. Joseph McCullough in The Defender. The headline here, Descent into Madness, How Government and Health Officials Weaponize Crazy to Silence Critics. This is a documentary called Descent into Madness, and it argues that governments, media, and medical institutions use labels like crazy to discredit people who question authority. The film connects the explosion of psychiatric diagnosis and medication to a deliberate system that brands non-conformity as illness and enforces obedience through pills. It's quite an important article.
It's a long article. It's about a film done by James Corbett of the Corbett Report. And I love the work that he does. I sadly haven't watched the video yet, but it's an hour and a half, Polly. And one of the things that the article, the Mercola article about the film points out is that 69% of the psychiatrists who contribute to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Issues, 69% of them get money from the pharmaceutical industry. So they're completely biased. This is not about medicine. And the article also points out, and apparently the film goes over a little bit of how the history of the weaponization of psychiatry in particular. And in Nazi Germany, there was a program called T4 that psychiatrists ran that helped to determine whether people were fit to live or not. And so psychiatry has a long history of being weaponized against political opponents. And I can't wait to see it. I will watch it soon. I just didn't get to it before today, unfortunately.
Okay, so this is in the Defender. It's by the Center for Biological Diversity. Headline here: the World Health Organization declares atrazine probably carcinogenic as EPA moves to reauthorize it. So the World Health Organization's cancer research arm has classified atrazine, a pesticide, by the way, which is found in the tap water of 40 million Americans, as probably carcinogenic to humans, even though more than 60 countries have banned the chemical over links to birth defects and cancer and fertility problems.
It's terrible, Polly. You know, the U.S. should not be authorizing atrazine or reauthorizing it when 60 countries have banned it. It's probably carcinogenic. We know it causes birth defects. We know it causes fertility issues, and yet we still are using it.
Another poison from another angle.
Yeah.
Suzanne Burdick in the Defender, her headline is New Phase of Attack. Children's Health Defense tells the FCC to protect people or get out of the way. In a motion filed with the Federal Communications Commission, which is known as the FCC, Children's Health Defense urged the agency to comply with a 2021 court order to review evidence that radiation at levels currently allowed by the agency harms people, especially children and the environment. If the agency ignores the motion, Children's Health Defense is prepared to take the matter back to court.
So, Polly, we worked really hard back in 2019 and 2020 to put together 11,000 pages of science showing that the guidelines in place from the Federal Communications Commission for health were inadequate. That since 1996, when they put these guidelines in place, there's been this explosion of tablets and cell phones and laptops, you know, that were genuinely like inconceivable 30 years ago. And so the court, the DC Court of Appeals, mandated the FCC to update its health guidelines and to look at how they needed to update them. And that was in 2021. It's now 2025 at the end of the year. They've done nothing. Our attorney who works on this, Scott McCullough, said that the FCC has shown deliberate indifference to what the court has mandated it to do. And so really this address to the FCC is saying, you know, either fix this or get out of the way, and that Health and Human Services really is interested in this issue. So I think we'll start to see some movement on this by 2026, Polly. I'm excited about that.
The Defender, and this is something that Austin Fitz has been warning us about for some time, but here we go. Gaming platform used by nearly 36 million children rolls out mandatory facial recognition. It's Roblox, and it's rolling out a new system to verify users' age by analyzing images of their faces. But critics cited concerns about privacy and data collection, as they should do.
Polly, first of all, I don't know about you, but I've never heard of Roblox, but it's apparently used by 1 billion people worldwide, 89 million daily users, 40% of whom are 13 and under. So that in and of itself is very concerning, if you ask me. And apparently it has been the subject of lawsuits and maybe prosecutions related to sexual exploitation. So predators go on there and they connect with children. So the idea of the company, Roblox, is, okay, we will put in an age verification system. We'll break kids down into age categories, and we'll only give information that's age appropriate. But we're going to do that by facial recognition. We can tell within 2 years how old a kid is. Roblox has already been sued by Louisiana, Kentucky, and Texas for sexual exploitation. This is so dangerous, Polly. The idea that we have to show our face to be recognized, to go into the computer, and then everything about us is known. But I've already encountered this in some things, you know, put in your fingerprint, or, you know, use your face, and I never sign on to those. But this absolutely is where things are going, and it's troubling.
Yeah, and as Twyla Braze keeps telling us, when you're at the airport, you can still opt out, even if you
I do.
Sign, opt out. Yeah,
I always opt out. And actually, I have to say, Polly, that not that there aren't cameras everywhere, but as long as we can opt out, we must opt out. And they're generally very receptive. You know, I just say, no photo, please. And I've never had anybody argue with me, actually, at TSA.
No, I haven't either. Okay, this is US Right to Know in the Defender. kids' screen use tied to higher risk of ADHD and subtle brain changes. Researchers analysing thousands of children found that heavy screen use at ages 9 to 10 was linked to higher ADHD symptoms 2 years later. And actually, I have to say, Mary, at the conference, quite a few people were asking if we could do more on, they know about the problem, but they don't know how to, because it's everywhere.
Well, I think Miriam Eckenfels is really working on this, and I have been meeting with people about children on screens. And, Polly, it's such a tough issue because these screens are intended to be addictive. They are intended to hook kids and not let them go. This is not a problem that that industry isn't aware of or that doesn't seek to continue. They want children to be addicted, to continue to sell things to them, to use their data to predict where they're going to be later. It's a hard one. And yes, I think we should do more about helping kids to get off of this screen addiction.
GM Watch in the Defender, tech mogul Larry Ellison sinks $60 million into ag biotech firm that uses AI to genetically engineer wheat. The tech billionaire's expanding footprint in Britain includes more than $250 million in donations to the Tony Blair Institute, which now aggressively promotes AI, gene editing, and other tech-driven policies. Who wants genetically engineered wheat anyway, but let alone done by AI?
Well, it's just fake food. It's a boondoggle for big industries, Polly. We just need to resist it.
On that note, also really read your labels. Someone gave me some ice cream that's I think supposed to be really healthy, but you look on the back and it says bioengineered, even though it's got healthy, organic. Right in small writing at the bottom says bioengineered product is used in this. I don't know what that is, but you really have to read the label.
It's really true.
Suzanne Burdick in the Defender, 1 in 10 adults seriously injured by a COVID vaccine. A new survey says roughly 10% of all US adults who received the COVID-19 vaccine experienced major side effects, and over a third, that's 36%, had minor side effects. According to a national survey conducted this month, Christy Dobbs, who was seriously injured by Pfizer's COVID-19 shot, says that the vaccine injured are still hurting, they're still dying, and they're still being discarded as trash.
So kudos to Rasmussen Reports, Polly, that did this poll. They have really been following COVID to their credit. And so I think, as you mentioned, this is like almost 1,300 adults. It's plus or minus 3%, but it's a 95% confidence interval. So this is really serious data. And it actually verifies what I think we learned from the Freedom of Information Act that the ICANN did on VSafe, which was a 10% injury rate. But 36% had minor side effects. 10% were serious. 36%, that's almost 4 in 10, had some kind of adverse event. And the article goes on to point out that over 1.6 million adverse event reports were filed with the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, and that only 39 cases have been compensated through this Kangaroo Court, the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program, less than 0.3%. So this is just awful, Polly. I mean, this really is just awful, and there has not been an adequate reckoning on COVID yet at all.
No.
They quote React 19, and I certainly support all the work that React 19 is doing, but we have got to keep sounding the alarm about COVID. We have not dealt with it honestly and completely at all. We still have these mRNA products on the market. There are all these people with serious issues. There really is an issue of shedding from the people who did get vaccinated. People have not been compensated. The government really hasn't been doing much of anything to uncover the information or to help the people who are harmed.
Right. Well, that's our news for the week. Tomorrow's the beginning of a new month. I'll see you on CHD TV in the morning. But for Mary and I, pray big, stand firm, never settle, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Polly. Bye, everybody.
So this one is from the New York Times, often called the newspaper of record. So a recent story, they say, quote, "No, chemtrails aren't real or causing floods, says the Environmental Protection Agency. So what's your view on that? We're moving from hurricanes now over to chemtrails and flooding.
Well, let's break that down, starting with semantics and the term chemtrails, which isn't a science term, so therefore it doesn't exist. I mean, are they playing a game of semantics? Say geoengineering or climate engineering or solar radiation management or stratospheric aerosol injection isn't causing this. They mention the term that's the instant, by design, marginalization term. Anybody who searches that term finds conspiracy theory and hoax. We're playing chess. We need to learn how to play well. So we'll start with the science terms. And again, for them to make a statement with virtually nothing to back it up except they say so, or some power structure paid so-called academics say so with no proof to back it up. In the case of the Texas flooding, we recorded the frequency transmission network, the NextRad network, which we're told are harmless, benign radar monitoring facilities that couldn't be further from the truth. This is patented technology. Frequency transmissions manipulate weather masses, period. They have a repelling effect, period. So what we saw in Texas, Mary, was an energizing of the transmitters completely surrounding that region of Texas, which, again, picture the repelling effect of all those transmissions. It kept that storm in one place. So it precipitated out in one location. That's the core cause of that event, aside from other factors that contributed to the moisture carrying capacity of that storm. But it's important for people to consider in that regard. The atmosphere can carry 7% more moisture for every degree C of warming. Based on unfiltered frontline data, we are likely past 3.5 now.
To slow that down, say that again with the humidity. Repeat that more slowly so we can get it.
This is the laws of physics.
Yeah.
Hard science. Atmosphere can carry 7% more moisture for every degree C of warming. So we must have more overall precipitation on a warming planet. But in fact, in spite of the 1,000-year floods and once in a 1,000-year floods, in fact, and Texas was one, we've had about 18 of those this season alone. 18 once in a 1,000-year floods. I wonder what's wrong. But between that, we have once in a 1,000-year droughts everywhere. So climate engineering, again, completely disrupting the hydrological cycle, drought deluge scenarios, extremes in both directions. But in the case of Texas, again, same with Harvey, same with Helene, frequency transmissions steered and corralled that moisture in specific regions, causing the deluges.
Global climate engineering programs carry countless agendas. Are cyclones being manipulated as a desperate measure to cool down specific regions of the country and of the world? This Collier's magazine cover is from 1954. At the time of its printing, the U.S. military's hurricane modification programs, Project Cirrus, had already been deployed for nearly a decade. Many question how climate engineers could possibly steer massively powerful cyclones with the use of jet-sprayed atmospheric aerosols and very powerful radio frequency microwave transmissions. It can and is being done. Though this diagram illustrates the basics, it doesn't even begin to come close to the true power and resource behind the climate engineering insanity. How much power are weather modification microwave towers actually able to put out? The publicized figure is 700,000 watts. These are for the towers that are scattered all over the country and all over the world. That's 1,400 times more than was disclosed by the live science diagram just shown. How much air power does the U.S. military have to fill the skies with sprayed aerosol particulates for climate modification? More than can be truly imagined. When all types of military tankers are included, the fleet numbers are in the thousands. A careful examination of this animation reveals extreme levels of radio frequency microwave transmissions being blasted out from a Key West, Florida transmission facility, even as the eye of Irma passes over. The Key West transmissions are clearly impacting the southern end of Irma's circulation in this animation capture, and the full power transmissions of at least 700,000 watts somehow continued on Key West, even though there was extensive power outages in the region. Hurricane Irma followed the most destructive possible path along the Cuban coast before making an anomalous northerly turn straight into Florida, just as predicted almost 7 days earlier, even while Irma was thousands of miles out to sea. Hurricane Irma's track was almost exactly what the weather forecasters said it would be. Again, almost a week in advance. Where are these hurricane forecasts being issued from? The same private defense industry contractors that are neck deep in orchestrating the ongoing climate engineering operations, companies like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. Hurricane Harvey's track was also forecasted with perplexing accuracy nearly a week in advance. They somehow knew where Harvey would go and how long it would stay. The case was the same with Hurricane Sandy in 2012. Even the unprecedented 90-degree turn Sandy made heading straight west was foreseen again nearly a week before it happened. As Irma approached, the Key West transmissions were fully powered up and used to slow the forward progress of the cyclone. The transmissions also scattered much of Irma's moisture from progressing further into the Gulf of Mexico. By Sunday, September 10th, this transmission facility near Charleston, South Carolina, helped to funnel Irma's waves of precipitation in the desired direction of the geoengineers. Irma's northward progression up the eastern coast of Florida was further hampered by this microwave frequency transmission facility near Tampa Bay, Florida. Why are Earth's climate systems being completely manipulated? As I've stated so many times in the past, there's many agendas being carried out by the ongoing climate intervention programs. We can say this with certainty. The desperate effort to temporarily cool some of the most population-dense regions of the U.S. and the world is one of the primary objectives. The NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration forecast map below, which amounts to the scheduled weather from geoengineering contractor Raytheon, who does all the weather modeling for National Weather Service and NOAA, was done on September 1st. This map reflects historically unprecedented temperature imbalances. The cool down zone in the eastern U.S. has been accomplished with the extreme moisture produced by Hurricanes Harvey, Katia, and Irma. And this moisture is seeded with patented chemical ice nucleating elements which produce a profound surface cool down. Cold, dense air descends and ends up on the surface. That's what's happening. In the meantime, the western U.S. continues to bake in record temperatures with record forest fires. Record highs in one half of the country, record lows in the other. After the moisture from Hurricane Harvey was utilized to help facilitate an eastern U.S. engineered cool down, yet again, Hurricane Katia was used as an atmospheric moisture pump. The massive stream of Gulf moisture from Katia, shown in this animation, was pushed north before it was rotated around a low pressure zone back down into the eastern U.S. As Hurricane Katia's moisture dwindled, Hurricane Irma took over as an engine of moisture production to serve the climate engineers and their objectives. Upper-level wind currents can and are being manipulated by the geoengineers with the use of the network of global ionosphere heater facilities like HARP. In this image, an extremely strong upper-level current can be seen off the eastern U.S. and extending to western Europe, where some of Irma's abundant moisture is delivered to facilitate climate engineering objectives there. The desperate and unimaginably destructive attempt to cool various regions of our rapidly warming planet is one of the objectives of the climate engineers. On this global departure from average temperature map, the latest geoengineered cool-down zones already discussed and outlined are not difficult to spot. The eastern half of the U.S. and western Europe. As Hurricane Irma migrates inland, the extensive grid of radio frequency microwave transmission facilities are ramping up their power and output in order to scatter and disperse Irma's moisture over the widest possible region. What are the scheduled temperatures for the U.S. once the current atmospheric moisture supply runs its course? Weather whiplash will set in as the eastern U.S. again heats up, and the western U.S. is temporarily and toxically cooled off with incoming Pacific moisture and patented chemical ice nucleation for weather modification processes. Welcome to geoengineered weather whiplash. This up-close look at the microwave frequency transmissions from a NexRad site near Knoxville, Tennessee, reveals just how profoundly these transmissions affect migrating precipitation. This image was recorded on the morning of September 11, 2017, as Irma and her abundant moisture tried to migrate inland. The highly toxic jet-sprayed climate engineering aerosols are not the only grave danger posed by the ongoing climate engineering insanity. The extremely powerful climate intervention microwave transmissions are also unquantifiably destructive to the biosphere and the entire web of life. Enter Hurricane Jose. How anomalous does the path of this powerful hurricane look? Given the unimaginably accurate path predictions for Hurricanes Sandy, Harvey, and Irma, what went wrong with the predictions for Jose? Or should we keep in mind that the scheduled weather from the geoengineers is always subject to change? This final radar animation clearly reveals Jose's blossoming strength and moisture potential. Will Jose now take over where Irma, Katia, and Harvey left off? We'll soon enough find out. Climate engineering is decimating Earth's life support systems, exposing and stopping geoengineering, which is weather, warfare, and biological warfare, should be, must be our top priority. Investigate the facts, share credible data with others, do your part in the essential effort to help us reach a critical mass of awareness on this most dire issue. Make your voice heard while it still matters. This is Dane Wigington with geoengineeringwatch.org.
Okay, everyone, so now we're going to go to Doug and Candy, and we're going to speak to them about their vaccine injury story. Good morning, Doug and Candy. Thank you for being here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Of course, well, it's very important that everybody tells their stories now more than ever. So this is a story about Michael. He's your son, and he's 6 years old today.
Yes.
All right, let's go back and talk about when you were pregnant with him. How was he in the pregnancy, and did you get vaccinated when you were pregnant?
The only vaccination that I recall is that I refused the flu vaccination for many reasons. My mother was an RN. She always dodged the flu vaccination every year. She said it always made her sick. So it was always ingrained in me, Michael was a miracle child anyways. They told us we couldn't have him. So I was very careful with everything I did. I ate healthy. Anything that, I was always afraid. I didn't even color my hair. I mean, that's how afraid I was because I just didn't want to lose him. So I didn't take anything unless it was like the tetanus one that you get right before. That's the only one that I had while I was pregnant. But as far as the pregnancy, he was very healthy, and he was perfectly normal up until a year old.
Okay, so Candy, going back to the Tdap you had, because this is really important. How far into the pregnancy did you get the Tdap?
Probably close to the end.
Close to the end. And do you remember why they wanted you to take it? What did they say to you about it?
That it was mandatory. That I couldn't refuse it.
Okay, well, that's a lie for a start. They lied to you.
Yeah.
So you already had that. And then was he born on the birth date, or was he early? How was he?
I think he was pretty much on time. They did induce me, but it was
It was within a week of what the calculated time would be.
Okay. So he's born, was he a C-section, or was he?
Natural birth.
Natural birth. And how was he when he was born, when you first held him?
Oh, he was, the first thing I said is, oh, he wanted me. He just couldn't wait to get in my arms. And I guess I just, he was just a happy, baby. I mean, he was strong. He was a very strong baby because he had a little bit of jaundice, and we had to go back and do the light therapy for him. And he fought those goggles the whole night. I stood over him trying to keep the light out of his eyes. But they told me he was a healthy, wonderful baby.
Okay, so day one, they would have given him vitamin K and Hep B.
Yeah, they gave him Hep B the day he was born.
Yeah.
And
didn't even tell me that they were going to give him any shots.
2 months after he was born, they gave him HIV, pneumococcal, and DTP and polio 2 months after he was born. And then they gave him the hepatitis B again a year later.
So while he was developing, he was getting all the vaccines that the doctor said that he needed. When did you first notice that something wasn't quite right?
probably about after the third hepatitis B shot. They gave him a third one when he was a year and 2 months old. They gave him a third hepatitis B, and that's probably when it started. And then they gave him another hepatitis B in January of 2020. So he had 4 hepatitis Bs within a year and a half.
And so, and this is not a criticism, because I, like you, did the same thing with my child. You didn't think to question these vaccines?
We went to church with the doctor. We just assumed that he was going to do the right thing. We personally knew the doctor. We didn't think anything about the fact that he was probably, now in retrospect and investigating a little bit, I realized that the company he works for, pretty much Ballot Health organization, they pretty much tell the doctors what they're going to do.
They really don't have a choice.
They don't have a choice between the insurance company and the company that the doctors work for. They pretty much they're not doctoring on their own anymore. In fact, we have 2 friends that were doctors that both basically resigned being doctors over it. One of them was in his 40s, and he decided to just be done with being a doctor.
So, but the doctor, Michael's doctor that you go to church with, what does he see now when he sees the injury from these vaccines?
Oh, he doesn't. We haven't been back. I got so upset about it. The last time I went, they were going to give him more shots, and I told them that they weren't doing it.
We had to sign a form.
I had to basically sign a form denying any further vaccination.
You can tell he was angry. He said, "We're not doing another vaccination." And they're like, "Well, you have to sign something." He said, "Go ahead. Give me it. I'll sign it."
Yeah, I told him they weren't giving him any more shots. It wasn't happening.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, we pretty much had zero contact with that doctor's office, unless Michael started running a serious fever or had some issue,
like a cold.
We just avoided the doctor altogether. We found another doctor in another town, now to take him to for his wellness checkups, who is basically doesn't give vaccinations. He doesn't believe in them.
So in your mind, Michael was injured by these vaccinations?
There's no doubt.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt. We have him on videos talking,
looking at, making eye contact. So he said words that he cannot say at 6 years old.
Michael, do you want to be with the cats? Yes. All day you want to be with the cats, right? Do you just want to be with cats all day? Oh, all day. Cat. Does cats make you happy? Do cats make you happy? Cat?
Say cat. What? I can't hear you. You say cat? What is cat? Can you say cat?
Yeah.
I mean, how can you talk at 1 year old and not at 6 years old?
In fact, we showed his speech therapist, who has been a speech therapist for over 30 years.
35 years.
35 years. We showed her the video of him at 1 year old talking, and she knows how he is now because she's his therapist, and she just looked at us like it's obvious what happened here.
In fact, she's the one that
told us to contact you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you're doing this. And I'm so sorry this has happened to you and countless others. Describe Michael today. Describe what they've taken away from him, what his life is like because of these shots.
Well, he's extremely frustrated. The problem is, mentally, he knows everything that's going on. He's smart. The teacher believes he can read, but he cannot talk. He cannot say his parents' name. If he gets away from us or if someone was to grab him, he can't say, "My mom and dad are Candy and Doug Allen. We live in Greenville." He can't say things that your average 6-year-old could say. Intellectually, he knows everything, so he's highly frustrated. in a lot of settings.
And there's a lot of sensory issues and meltdowns. I mean, it's obviously poisons in the body, because when we detox, that's when we see more focus and better behaviors and things like that. We just keep trying all kinds of holistic things, but I mean, that part of not speaking is traumatic in itself. And then he's got the sensory issues that also, and be able to self-regulate makes things very difficult for him. It's hard for him to go in settings where there's a lot of people, a lot of noise. If he gets upset, like most people can just brush it off, and he could have a meltdown, and he could have issues throughout the whole week because of one incident.
And we have to be careful with him sometimes around other little kids, because he's the size of it. He's a big boy for his age. It's 6. He's like bigger than he's like an 8 or 9-year-old kid
in size.
And, but so
emotionally,
emotionally, he's not. And if he has a problem with another child, we got to kind of really watch what's going on. He can't just be around children his own age.
The other thing I noticed also that did not click right away was I had him on pediatric nutritional portion meals when he first started eating, and then that all went away. He just got to where he only eats probably 3 or 4 items of food.
Yeah, he went from being totally normal in his eating pattern to now he's not.
Yeah, he eats a tomato sandwich, the same sandwich every day.
We are doing a lot of holistic things, and we do believe that the detoxing is helping him. And we do believe that maybe by the therapist thinks that maybe by the time he's 8 or 9 years old, he might be speaking, but we don't know long term how this is going to affect his behavior or ability to function. We pray to God that he'll do something, because we don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if the government's going to try to, come up with different kinds of treatment, or their research and treatments, or what they're doing. But, we've tried leucovorin, which is a new thing out there. We tried that. We don't think that that's the answer for him. It kind of made his behavior worse.
Maladaptive behaviors, more aggressive.
But we do think that detox therapy is helping him. We do think that. But, we just, he's getting a little bit better as time goes on. But like Candy said, if he was, I'm 100% sure if he had never got those vaccinations, right now he'd be absolutely normal.
Functioning
He'd be
like
in
other
school
kids.
just like every other kid. Yeah.
Douglas, so I'm just asking you this because we very rarely get the dads on. So I know with my husband, when we went through this, he was so angry about
You don't even know. I told them when they came in there to give him the shots the last time, I told them they better call the police, because they weren't giving him a shot, because I'd be going to jail if they tried to give him a shot. It wasn't going to happen.
Douglas and Candy, what is your message to young mums that are everywhere that have no idea, just like you guys didn't, we didn't, that these vaccines are they can potentially kill? I mean, we've had so many death stories from these shots. We didn't know that when we took them in. What is your message to the young people that you were when you had Michael?
Well, when you go in to have your baby, I would, if I was doing it over again, I would tell them, you're not giving him a single shot at day 1 of birth. That's not happening. Well, why would you give a vaccination to a newborn baby the day he's born that's basically for prostitutes and drug addicts? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
That's the most ignorant thing I've ever heard of in my life. I can't think of any good reason that a 1-day-old baby gets a hepatitis B shot. I'm sorry. We don't live in South America or any third world country. There's no reason for it other than they're, This is just my personal opinion. My personal opinion is they're causing problems so they can come up with an answer and they can come up with a new medical industry to make more money.
Yeah.
I think it's all about money, every bit of it.
I think that if I could talk to another mother, I would highly recommend them to wait on vaccinations. Don't allow them to make that decision right away.
Like my older sons are in their 30s. They didn't have a single shot until they were probably
When
3 or
you go to
4 years old.
Yeah.
The first shots when they were 3 or 4, and then when they were like 6 or 7, getting ready to go to school, then they had a few more shots.
Yeah. I know you have to have some for school, but there's no need to give it to a brand new baby.
And now I think the schedule now I read on the internet says that by the time a child born today gets to school, he's had like 76 vaccinations. I mean, who is in charge of this crap? You know?
What do you both think when you see Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. standing up there saying, you know, Tylenol, and also there's no doubt that Trump was basically saying vaccines because he talked about the Amish. Do you feel like there is hope now?
I believe that there is, but I don't know how long it will last. I mean, our president is elected, you know how it is, every 4 years. And in 3.5 years now, or 3 years, we might have some other idiot in there trying to kill, you know, everybody like the last one. You know, I mean, they're more worried about their one world government fantasy than they are taking care of Americans.
And he has a good perspective because
I was a Secret Service agent for 23 years. I worked in the government for almost 30. I know how it works up there. You know, I'm not happy.
No, and rightly so. Every parent in your position, especially us parents who have older children, worry about what's going to happen to our children who are so vulnerable when we are no longer around?
Oh, exactly. I was 55 years old when Michael was born. I pray to God every day that I live long enough to make sure that at least he's in a position to be able to take care of himself, or that I can convince his older brothers that if I'm gone and Candy's gone, that they're going to need to step up and make sure that he, you know, is taken care of in life. You know, it's not that, you know, I thought I was retiring. You know, I didn't think, you know, when I retired, I was going to be looking, you know, looking at this kind of thing with, you know, I just can't believe that the way this country is being pushed around by pharmaceutical companies and the way they let people infiltrate the CDC and the FDA, you know, it's mind-boggling to me, you know.
What do you think? Well, here's what's going to happen to you both if it hasn't happened already. The fact that you're just speaking out about what happened to your son, you're going to be labeled a far right-wing anti-vaxxer crazy because you vaccinated your child and you're now speaking about. So you're not an anti-vaxxer, you're an ex-vaxxer, I would presume, like most of us.
People already said that.
I don't care what they say to me. Do you think I really don't care? I know what I know what the truth is, okay?
They don't.
And that's all I care about. I know what the truth is.
It drives me nuts when people tell me this didn't that this, you know, they try to tell me how I should think. And I'm like, until you live it, you have no right to say what is going on. I mean, I saw it with my own eyes. You know, I saw him looking into my eyes and could say my name at 4 months old, all the way up to a year old. And then he got to where he couldn't even look at me. He was just like a blank stare. Like he just couldn't focus. You know, after, like, I remember when he got shots, every time he'd get shots, he would get a fever. And, you know, it was scary. I just thought I was going to end up losing him, you know, over taking him to the doctor. I mean, it's ridiculous.
You know, the doctors get paid to vaccinate your child, my child.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we go to a different doctor now. We go to a doctor that doesn't believe in that. He won't even give vaccinations unless they're requested by the parents. He doesn't, you know.
Okay, what do you
have to pay out of pocket for these type of doctors because they're not controlled.
They're not controlled by insurance companies, so you're paying them out of pocket.
And I've had to fight every little thing for my son because we don't qualify for TennCare in the state of Tennessee. So, you know, I had to fight for Katie Beckett. He didn't get any early intervention. The doctor didn't even suggest that he even had autism. He just said, well, he's delayed. You know, he could be a little bit farther than what he is now. I mean, he didn't get his diagnosis until December of this year because I wrote a sob story to a neurological developmental doctor. And I said, you know, this child has not been able to get a speech device. He's not been able to be diagnosed. He's not been able to get speech because speech was going to be $260 every week for 30 minutes with insurance. Everything with insurance was thousands and thousands of dollars. I'm like, I don't have that. He's retired. I mean, I can't go to work because I have to stay at home and be his caretaker, you know. And like right now, he's downstairs with an RBT. He has 25 hours a week of, you know, applied behavioral therapy. And he's going to probably have to have that till he's in high school. I mean, he's got to, you know, and he's frustrated because he's got to do tasks every single day so that he can go into society and be like everybody else. I mean, it's just insane.
Yeah, and not to mention the emotional toll it takes on you, both the exhaustion that no one prepares you for and how it affects the rest of the family.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I get so tired, I go down to get a B12 shot just so that I can perk up just to keep going.
And see, here's the other thing. Like, I come from a family where my grandparents had like 10 and 12 siblings on each side. Candy did also. There's not ever been a single person in our family line ever disabled to even to have autism or even to have Down syndrome. And zero.
Right.
Zero. I mean, I'm 100% sure this is vaccine related.
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind.
Because my grandfather, his mother was 45 and his father was 55 when they had him. And so it, you know, when people try to say, well, we're older, I'm like, we both have grandparents that had children into their 50s. And all of our we have nobody with disabilities on either side. So it's like, you know, he was a normal baby. You can't say that when you have a child that can talk at 1 and then at 6, you know, I did a video, I sent in a video to y'all of him saying cat, all day cat, and making eye contact to 6 years old. I said, can you say cat? He goes, you know, I mean, he couldn't even, for cat and dog, he goes meow, meow, and a ruff, ruff. You know, because he can only make the sound. He can't even say the words. And he's 6 years old.
Yeah.
So, Candy and Douglas, let's summarize this up. What do you think caused your son's autism?
I'm 100% sure it's the vaccinations.
Oh, yeah.
Robert Kennedy got on TV the other day and said there was almost a 1,200% increase in autism with the hepatitis B shot. As many hepatitis B shots as he's had in a short period of time, I wouldn't be surprised if that was it.
Well,
it probably was.
Well, the sad thing is, like, when we were growing up, we didn't see this. I mean, there might have been a case here and there, but we never seen anybody that couldn't speak.
I never saw it.
No,
ever. I'm 61 years old. I have never.
Not at this level.
No, not at any level. I have never seen a child that could not speak in my 61 years. We had mentally retarded children.
Down syndrome.
No, not even Down syndrome. We had mentally retarded children that couldn't do anything but just sit there. We had those, but they were very few and far between. Now, I mean, I wonder if this isn't some deliberate act, because of I was looking at statistics the other day, it said 1 out of 12 boys born this year is going to have autism. I mean, before long, this is going to be a national security issue. If you can't field an army because a great majority of your male children being born can't even talk, I mean, is that not part of their plan? It sure makes me wonder.
Yeah, well said. Candy and Douglas, we're really, truly sorry this happened to you and so many others. Do you see how many of us there are out there?
Oh, every day.
Yeah.
Like we said, we never saw it in
We
our
never-
life ever, and now
Everybody's
it's
touched by
every
it.
day.
There's somebody that knows somebody. Just about every person that you run
It's
into
either
is
my
touched by it.
It's either my nephew's got autism, my grandson's got autism, my son has autism. It's everywhere now. That's why I said I'm wondering if this isn't a deliberate act.
Well, I want to thank you both so much for coming here this morning and doing the stories. It's really important, everybody listening now, you all tell your stories. Come to CHD, stories at chd.tv, and tell your stories, because we need to show the world how many of our children have been injured or killed by childhood vaccines. Candy and Douglas, again, I'm really sorry to
Appreciate it.
Michael. And just know that you have one big, massive family around the world in the same situation as you. Good people.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.